This vidcast has been made possible by Chris Snell Media and Sound Production. For bookings for voiceover work, on-camera, motivational speaking, and DJing at your next event, email info@chrissnell.co.za. To find out more about me, visit my website, chrissnell.co.za. Enjoy today's program.
But TJ, it's nice to make your acquaintance, man. How long have you known Jay?
So I've known Jay not that long, actually, probably about 6 months.
6 months, all right.
But in that time, we're brothers from another mother. We feel like we've known each other a lot longer, and we've embarked on quite a few pretty big projects right off the hop. So it's been really good.
And you're also involved in OSNAP, right?
I am, yes. I'm involved in OSNAP, Empower to Recover, and then I have a few more projects going on.
All right. Well, TJ, it's lovely to have you on the show. I just want you to just be yourself with me. It's not something formal. I don't know if you've ever done chat shows before that may seem clinical, but this is just a chat between you and me. You can be yourself. It's a safe space, no judgment whatsoever. So it's an honor and a privilege.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Likewise.
So tell me about your story, mate. I'm assuming that you've had quite the time with the dalliance with the devil.
For sure. I mean, if we want to just start right from the beginning, that's kind of where I can jump in. So I grew up in a small town. My parents got divorced at a pretty young age, and there's quite a bit of abuse as a child.
Right.
It all started off. I was sexually abused by a neighbor.
Right.
And as a child, having that happen, it's just a horrible experience, right? And I didn't quite understand,
of course, needless to say,
what type of damage that would have, in my elder years. So growing up, elementary school and stuff, I tended to be bullied a lot. I never felt like I fit in, and I always felt different. About 12 years old, I met alcohol for the first time. And
12 years old, you say?
12 years old, yeah.
Okay.
So, the very first time I experienced alcohol, I got just totally blackout drunk. I ended up in the hospital, stomach pumped. And you would have thought that would have been enough to kind of turn me off, and that was just kind of getting me started. And ever throughout elementary school, high school, that transition, the liquor would make me feel like I was somebody. It brought me out of my shell. It took that anxiety away. It gave me this boost of confidence, and all of a sudden, being bullied, I started to fight back. And I really transformed a lot of my fear into aggression, and I became pretty violent person. A lot of it stemmed from the abuse that my dad had, physical abuse that my dad put on me, and that fear.
I can relate.
And yeah, so I mean, I would be getting kicked out of classes, kicked out of school, and at 15 years old, I was expelled from school. I was kicked out of my parents' house, and so I was basically homeless with no education.
I'm sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just life, and I didn't quite know how it was going to go, and I ended up meeting up with a guy, and I started to grow marijuana, and that was kind of the first touch into the organized crime lifestyle. And 16, I had made some money doing that, and I had the bike, the boat, the truck, all this kind of stuff. But I had burned basically every bridge that I had, and it was time for me to leave this town. So I lied about my age, and I moved to Alberta, and I went to go work on the oil rigs. And the oil rigs is it's minus 40 in the winter, it's plus 35 in the summer, and
I can well imagine. Yeah.
Here I am, a 16, 17-year-old little kid, and I'm with all these grown men, and I missed out on all my high school years, prom, all that kind of stuff. And I was a scared little boy in a man's world, and I had to grow up really, really fast. Dangerous equipment, lots of addiction, and that was my life. And I managed to live that life for about 10 years till I was about 25 years old. Going to the gym and physical fitness kind of really saved me. My addiction was just getting started there, but I would go work out while all the guys would go partying, and
I
and
wanted to say you're jacked to the rafters.
yeah, it's been something
And
that's
I mean
really
that as a
helped save
compliment,
me
please.
for sure. No, I appreciate it. Physical fitness has been something that's really kept me alive.
To me too, I have to say,
Um,
for my mental health especially.
Totally for my mental health. Totally for my mental health. So,
There's nothing
I
great. I have to shoehorn this in. A lot of people have the misconception about weightlifting, for example.
yeah.
I'm assuming you normally put in sessions of maybe 40 minutes to, let's say, an hour and a half max. But in
Yeah.
that 40 minutes, hour and a half, I program my aggression in that weights. So if something pisses me off, if I'm not feeling completely just myself and there's something completely off, I want to be fucking present. So taking out that aggression is like, hitting the punching bag. And after the 45 minutes, an hour and a half, I feel just light as a feather. My
Mhm.
sense of humor is just top notch, all of it. And I can assume exactly the same for you.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Whether it's the day before or something I'm dealing with, I usually try to work out in the morning so I can, release everything and start that day fresh. And so that's been a really big pillar of
Mm.
staying alive, honestly. And at 25, the recession hit and oil prices dropped, and here I was. I owned a house, and I had huge monthly payments and monthly bills. I had all the toys. I had a relationship with my high school sweetheart, and I had to make a decision about how I was going to make money and maintain this lavish lifestyle that I had from working in the oil field. And all I knew how was when I was a kid, what did I do that made good money? And that was back to selling drugs. So I went back into that, and that kind of became my life. And with selling drugs comes now the gangs and that whole thing. And I became a founding member of a motorcycle club that hangs out with a bigger motorcycle club. And
I was about to
that
ask, did you ever do business with the motorcycle gangs? But you answered that question before I had the question to pose.
yeah.
Before I had to pose it.
So I mean, I was
I've
full
also
on
had
in that.
contact with the MCs here in South Africa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that was it became full fledged. My girlfriend at the time said, you pick either this or that. And I chose the gang lifestyle. Part of it being an only child and wanting that brotherhood really drew me a part of
Mm,
that.
mm.
And there was kind of a facade about that. And blink of an eye, it became so real. Doing kidnappings, home invasions, collections, um, selling guns, everything that basically you see on TV. Um, you know, uh, Not quite as glamorized, but that's where my life was at. And I was
Sure.
looking. I was under surveillance. An incident happened, and I had the SWAT team come to my house and draw me out of there. And I was basically looking at 10 years in jail. And so that was something that was going through my mind. And addiction would numb that out a little bit. I was out on bail, and I got a high priced lawyer. And just the way that it went, all those charges were luckily withdrawn. And, I kind of thought I was untouchable. And, things just kept ramping up. More people working for me, bigger deals, more money, flashier cars. And, one night I woke up, bunch of loud bangs. I thought the cops were kicking in my door again. And it was actually a drive-by shooting. Someone had drove by and shot 7 high-powered rounds through my house, and they ripped through about a foot from where I was sleeping.
Shit.
And I mean, that still wasn't a wake up call. I wouldn't leave the house without a bulletproof vest. I always had, one of those everywhere I went. And that became the norm for me. And that, going out, I went out and I had my throat slashed and my stomach slashed in a bar fight. And, life is just spiraling out of control in a real big hurry. And, the paranoia really started to set in and the drug use really started to ramp up. And, I would use more drugs than I was pretty much selling, and I wouldn't want to leave my house. And I was in a really toxic relationship at the time, and I basically just felt trapped. And the thoughts of suicide started entering my mind because I didn't know what I was going to do. And there came a time I had a gun beside me all the time. I grabbed that gun, I put it in my mouth, and I pulled the trigger, and the fucking thing had jammed.
No way.
And that was a pretty pivotal moment in my life, that there's, a universe, a higher power, God, whatever you want to call it, something there that was looking over me, and something that was, I have, more of a reason to be on this earth. And a lot of the times the addiction, I would use drugs because my core values of who I truly was, when you go back to a kid and that happy, kind, loving little boy doing all these, horrific criminal things, those didn't align. My head, my heart, and my stomach were not in alignment. And, luckily I had the common sense to make a choice that, this is a wake-up call and I needed to do something different. And that's when I found recovery. And, I started getting into a 12-step program. And
was this voluntarily
slowly,
or court ordered? Sorry to interrupt.
No, this was volunteer. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know, where to go in my life. And someone important in my life said, well, just go to a meeting and just see what happens.
Okay.
And I ended up at an all men's meeting, and this big tough gangster going in this room with 60 or 70 guys. And after about 4 of them, started sharing and telling their story, I just started bawling, because every person that shared was my story. And it was a different, obviously told from a different perspective, but each one of those had something that I took away, and it was just so overwhelming with emotion that I was in the right place, and I finally felt like I belonged somewhere, and that I was a part of. And these people taught me how to love myself, and they loved me until I could do that, because I was broken. I had no self-esteem. I was just totally lost. And nowadays things are a lot different. It took me a while to get out of that lifestyle and to build some recovery capital, and but now I'm really big in the recovery community here. I have been working
I can understand that.
off, and I just opened up my first treatment center. It's a small
Congratulations
recovery center for men. Yeah, thank you. I volunteer my time, and I go into schools and I talk to the youth about the dangers of drugs and gangs and that lifestyle, because out here in Vancouver we have a huge gang war going on, and they're grooming kids as young as 16, 17 to be in these gangs. So it's just crazy. But my life now, I mean, I have the life now that I used to lay and pray for and say, please God, I will do this if you just get me out of the situation. And it keeps me alive, helping these guys rebuild their lives. And that's where I got linked up with Jay and the Empower to Recover movement that we're doing. So we got some really big things coming. I mean, that's kind of my story in a nutshell, without getting too gritty.
No, sure. And if you don't want to go there, please, you're under no pressure. Just a couple
that's it.
A couple of observations. I've been doing this now for roughly about 2 years, and if there's one common thread that I always find with regards to, I can't say the same for women, but specifically with men, there's a loss of innocence, and they're trying to make up for that loss of innocence by means of engaging in activities that they would not necessarily always, but in the beginning it's euphoric, so they gain something back. But the problem is it's temporary, and because it's temporary, you want to do it more and more and more and more and more. And Jay will talk about this, where in the sense of it's not just the substance, it's the quest rather of wanting more that compels you to make you to want to use, to make you to want to commit crime. You spoke about the urban warfare currently going on the streets of Vancouver. I had Gary Chalk, the well-known Canadian actor, on my podcast about a year or so ago, and he put up a video on Instagram of someone literally getting clocked in the face on a busy street corner somewhere in downtown. I don't want to judge people. In fact, it fills me with pity when I see young people today because I understand it. You're preaching to the converted. I've seen street crimes happen. I've seen dead bodies littered all over the highway because of gang warfare and drug dealing gone wrong. Now, the question I want to pose you, first of all, TJ, is do you think it was because of the fact that you didn't have a proper childhood, that you originally wanted to use and engage in criminal activity in the first place? And it's open-ended. I'm not trying to point the finger at you specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great question. It all really started with me, like I said, being an only child, and really wanting that brotherhood. I wanted someone who, would have my back and be my brother and stick up for me, especially with the bullying. And, that gang lifestyle really drew me to that because it was, a crew of big, strong guys that all had each other's backs. We always would carry guns. It was kind of live by the sword, die by the sword. So there's that element to it. And then, the crime element to it, it becomes addicting, like you said. And, you always want more, being, kind of an adrenaline junkie, as I'm sure a lot of us are. It starts out with just doing one little thing, and then it becomes more and more and more. And, the next thing you're in a shootout downtown, and it just keeps going up from there until you're either dead or in jail. Those are the two only endings to that lifestyle. I've lost over 30 friends in the last 10 years to either overdose, murder, or they're spending significant time in penitentiaries and jails now for the rest of their lives. And I just had a guy that I knew the other day that was just murdered in this Vancouver war that's going on. And one dies and then the other crew kills. I mean, there was just another double shooting in Whistler, and it's just tit for tat nonstop, right?
And what is the origin of these gang wars? Do you know?
It all comes down to territory, basically. It's the downtown east side in Vancouver is an absolute apocalypse right now, and I've never seen it so bad. Like, I was down there not too long ago, and the tents and just the people and the type of drugs, everybody's literally zombies, and it is absolutely insane. But these are high money making areas, and it becomes a turf war with COVID and limited amounts of drugs being able to get across the border. It all comes down to money and turf and territory, and that's what they're fighting for.
And they're perhaps smuggling it in through either Chicago or through Seattle.
Yeah, they're smuggling it. There's all types of ways. They're so creative now. There's every border crossing, there's stuff coming in.
I asked this question because you're not going to believe me when I tell you this. I've just recently relocated to another part of the country. Like Canada, we also talk about provinces, and we've also followed the British monarchy. And my old neighborhood where I used to live in the east became perpetuated with drug usage, prostitution, gang wars, but only on small, minutiae scale. About 1 month after I settled into this new house here, I came home from work and my mother said to me, that neighborhood just around the corner from our old house, it's being burned to the ground. It's being burned to the ground because of gang war.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at that and I think to myself, gee whiz, how blessed to have escaped that. Now, naturally, of course, my heart goes out to the parties involved, because I'm assuming with what's currently going on in BC, it was a long brewing feud that was about to boil over. So I just found it extremely, extremely interesting that you should mention this. But let's take the negative and put it into a positive. You mentioned as well you were very, very blessed to ultimately put your past behind you. You've opened up your first treatment center. Tell me, did you start with a couple of people that you knew and you said to them, listen, would you like to, I'm opening up this facility, come to us, we'll try and treat you, but it's not going to be the most conventional, what you would normally think. It's clinical. We want to really just help. We don't want to tell you what to do. Or how did that argument play out?
Yeah, I mean, it all started. I did have a small little business before. I had a clothing brand and a tattoo shop, and it was a pivotal moment where 4 of my close friends overdosed and died in 1 week, and there were some really bad drugs going around. And I said, okay, like I need to do something about this, and I was able to sell my business, and that gave me a little bit of startup capital to renovate the building that I was in. It's basically perfect for it, and oddly enough, been fighting with the town to open up a treatment center because
Jay
there's
had a similar problem, yeah.
so much red tape, so much logistics, so much stuff that it just doesn't make sense. And the further that I dove into it, I couldn't believe it. Basically, when push came to shove right at the very end, I made the choice just to open anyway, and I'll deal with it later because there's a public emergency going on. And yeah, it kind of started like it's just a small center. We only have 5 beds, which is it's a lot more intimate, but we get a lot better level of care, and the brotherhood bonds that are built are a lot stronger. So it just becomes these long lasting relationships that get built, and the opposite of addiction is connection.
Of course.
And it just became some of the guys I kind of knew through friends, and we base our 4 pillars on fitness, nutrition, spirituality, and recovery. So we are 12-step based, but we're in the gym, the conventional gym 5 days a week. We go to boxing the other 2 days a week. We have lots of members of the Indigenous community come in and teach us about plant-based healing, plant-based medicine, ceremonies. We do
You're
sweat
talking about the First
lodges.
Nations.
First Nations, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So we do spirit baths. So we really incorporate a lot of, the Indigenous culture into our program.
Well, God bless
And,
you for being so inclusive.
well, you have to, because the teachings and the knowledge that they have over the years, it just, there's so much experience there, and there's so much to learn, and for the Indigenous to open up their community and really show us so many unique special ways of healing. We're just so blessed, and there's so much stuff just on the land itself that you'd be so surprised of these things that really help with addiction. And
Yeah,
you
I
know
can well
we
imagine.
we we also have one-on-one counseling, recovery coaching. We have Reiki, that a lady comes in and does Reiki on these guys, and really helps get them
I'm
back.
familiar with Reiki. Yeah, you get these ASMR YouTube videos, and that's how I got familiar with Reiki. It's an interesting science, I must say. It's not
Hmm.
some hippy dippy crap. I really think of it as a science.
Yeah, yeah, it's all about energy, and a
Oh
lot of the
yes.
stuff
Oh
when first
yes.
starting out, we just really tried experimentally to see what works and how that would go. And some of the changes and the inner workings of some of these programs, it's phenomenal. So we've just really kind of built on that. And now we're hoping next year to be opening up a women's house, and a
Nice.
women's house that will actually allow them to recover with their small children. So instead of having their small children go back into the system, or have the grandparents, or have someone take them, the kids will actually live with the mothers while they recover and do 12-step absence-based programming.
Well, how would that module work? You've got me curious because it's an interesting thought, and I'm not doubting it. But there are various degrees of people's addictions. So, of
Yeah,
course, it would be supervised if it is, way, 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 way high, where they have a dependency so that it might pose a danger. But if you would obviously oversee that with your partners and so on and so forth to decide,
yeah,
okay, you know what, it would be rather better if the child stayed with the mother for maybe 3 hours, and then they'll be in a separate room for 3 hours. I hope I'm coming across clearly. But if it's not so bad, they can at least stay with the mother and, be supervised
for
all the
sure.
time.
Yeah, and I mean, it's, with us, everything's kind of a case by case
Case
scenario,
by case.
and
Thank you. Thank you.
we
That's what I was
yeah.
referring to. Yeah.
So we really look at it that way. The thing which a lot of people don't understand, the government only pays $45 a day for treatment per person, and you're supposed to house, clothes, feed, educate, entertain somebody for $45 a day.
It can't
With
happen.
my It can't happen. It just can't happen.
Not with
And
this inflation.
my place is private pay, but I'm about $15,000 a month or $10,000 a month less than some of these other private facilities. My whole model is impact over income, so I'm not here to make money. I'm here to make a difference. And
Mm.
Our level of people that are addicts are, we're not, we don't take people that are right off the street, that are homeless, that are totally devastated their lives in addiction. I'm not as experienced enough in that field. I'm not a doctor. So right now we're just taking people that are still able to have a bit of a life, hold a life down, and we just really help them rebuild where they're at, and give them those tools and ongoing care. Eventually, as I get more experience, as I get some more capital and some more government support, we'd love to open up a place that we can just pick people right off the street and say, hey, if you want help, we're here to help you. But right now, just with the way that the housing market's going, with my experience, and because I'm literally living here 24/7, I'm with these guys nonstop. So it's just that's kind of the clientele that we have to work with.
Well, I can understand that. You're eating the elephant one bite at a time. And of
Mhm.
course, you've got this big vision, which is broad, which is far reaching. And you've got a concept that is literally never heard of before. And now I can understand why Jason got a hold of you and said, "Listen, be a part of what I'm trying to do," because he's trying to get me in that frame of thinking, which is wonderful, because we all have a vision, we all have a dream, and if we don't chase it, we're going to live an unfulfilled life. Now that brings me to Empower to Recover. How did you get involved with that?
So Empower to Recover, same thing. Jay and I first connected. I went to the Recovery Capital conference in Calgary, Alberta, and we kind of linked up on that. He wanted some information. We connected. We connected with the O-Snaps, and then with my experience of going to that conference and kind of my vision, this has been Jay's vision for 12 years that he's really wanted to
It
see it
has been.
through. And, the universe kind of aligned and put a team of people in front of him that all bring different qualities to the table that are able to make this vision happen. And now moving forward, we all have our own little unique talents that we add to the pie. And it's happening November 19th, 2022 in New Westminster at the Anvil Center. Empower to Recover is going to be the first conference. Our whole model is we recover loud so others don't have to suffer in silence. And,
Correct.
we're really going to bring a voice to the government to instill change for abstinence-based programs, because they're all funding harm reduction right now. Yes, harm reduction saves lives, but it's just a band-aid, and it doesn't fulfill sustainable long-term recovery. And there's just not enough being done. Like $825 million federally went missing for mental health and addictions a couple months ago, and nobody has an answer to that.
It went into someone's
It's
pocket. I guarantee you, it went into someone's pocket, hand over fist.
well,
Once that
wherever
tender got the
wherever it went.
signature, off it went to some minister's hands,
Yeah,
and gone is the
yeah.
money.
And I mean, the people are not failing the people right now. It's the system that's failing the people. And
Hands
through
down.
Empower,
Hands down.
through Empower to Recover, I've met some great people that we're collaborating on. Another gentleman's doing a sober fest, and they're raising money to send people to treatment. So he's raising money through his sober fest. He's actually going to be purchasing a bed off of me, and then I'm donating another month of treatment, and we're going to collaborate and get somebody basically 90 days of free donated treatment.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, when you do these initiatives, I'm sure it must just spur something inside you to keep going and just keep on trying, right?
Yeah, it's there's a lot of stigma with addiction, and
Needless to say.
there's it's a really hard spot because my place is private pay, but we offer so many activities. If you see us on Instagram, we're always out hiking, doing kayaking, doing all types of things. And we even get stigmatized as the helpers to say, oh, your program should be free, or oh, you should be taking, different types of people. And if I could help everybody, trust me, I, I would love to help everybody. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't want help, and they don't want to do the work that's required to
There's the
change
answer.
your life. Those who pay attention, and I hate to say it, but um, when you're putting something up, you're going to pay a lot more attention, and you're going to work a lot harder than if it's just handed to you.
Well, you say it exactly the way I was going to say it. Unfortunately, and this is very broad, I have to say it for perpetuity. We're sadly now living in a society where everything must fall out of the sky and you don't fork 1 cent for it. Now I understand why Jason said originally, recovery is not free. Sadly, now I understand that revelation. Yes, no, not everyone wants help because they are stuck in this mindset of I can sort myself out, but it doesn't work like that. Yes, there are going to be certain cases where you feel compelled to provide aid without cost, but that'll be uh, revealed unto you in due course by a higher power. But when you actually, like you quite rightly said, input your own financial capital into it, then when you pay, you start paying attention. And the society needs to wake up, not just to that, but they have to wake up to all facets that sadly, no matter how much government funding you're going to get, no matter how much private funding you're going to get, you're going to have to either fork up or you're going to have to fuck off. Either one of the two.
100%.
Now, tell me
Yeah.
something, TJ. Let's talk about fitness. I mentioned earlier on that for me, fitness doesn't just play a role in becoming aesthetically pleasing. It's more of the fact of that it aids my mental health. It helps me perform at optimum function for maybe 6-7 hours that I'm at a work day. But when I'm at home as well, I can relax just as hard. Uh, you began working out in active addiction, right?
Yeah. I mean, I began working out pretty much since I was 13 years old.
Okay, so it's a lifelong hobby. It's a lifelong
Yeah.
hobby.
Yeah.
Tell me specifically what are the advantages for you from working out in recovery as a whole? The benefits. What do you feel,
Oh
etc.,
man,
etc.?
yeah, so much. I mean, as we start to recover, and the toxins and the drugs leave our body, for one, it builds routine. So it starts that routine that you're going to get up and you're going to go to the gym and you're going to push yourself as hard as you can. It teaches you limits that the body can actually do some pretty amazing things when you put your mind to it. Your physical body can keep up to it. It takes out that aggression and that frustration. You push your body to the limit that you just can't go anymore. You release so many different emotions, not only dopamine and endorphins, and then it builds self-confidence, and you start to look better, you start to feel better. And then with that, I mean, the next thing that you want to do is you want to start eating better. And that's why we have the nutrition part into our, recovery programs, is because, what you fuel and what you put into your body, you're going to get that result. It's going to help you, with your workouts. And, it gives you that sense of, purpose and something to do that you can fall back on. And, it's really about self-love and investing in yourself and seeing the results. I mean, if you can do it physically, you start with that, you can see the change physically, and then adding it in spiritually, the stuff that you can't quite see but you know that it's possible. It just all ties in together.
I hear you. Now, as we start to wind down, because I know you've got a full program ahead of you, what are some of the life lessons that you've learned leading up to the point where you said, no more, not for me. I need to start making some changes for myself up until the point after that you started opening up the treatment center?
Yeah, I mean, other people are very unreliable, and there's lots of great people out there, but not waiting around for other people and just having to just buck up, be self-made, and do it myself. I not only learn a lot that way, and but just relying on other people sometimes can cause a lot of problems, because I have, so many people say they're going to show up at a certain time. They don't. They say they're going to do something. They don't. And, to be able to just do things myself a lot of the times, obviously there's some things I can't, but the more that I can learn and trust myself, the further off I can get without having to have outside people, come in and help. And obviously, I try to teach my guys to be, reliable, on time, respectful members. I try to teach them how I am, and, I want to build some really strong character and really healthy men that come out of here who can show their emotions. They're okay with crying and being in touch with their emotions. They can be very, very dangerous, but they can control it. And that's something that is super important, to have that ability to, be a warrior and be unbreakable, but be able to control every ounce of your emotion and not let anybody
I'm
set you
loving
off.
this. I'm loving this to pieces. TJ, really, if I say this has been a privilege, really, this is a privilege. You need to come back. We need to have another conversation to make it more than just a half an hour. But I really want to thank you for your time. And if I say this, I want you to understand me. I mean it. I'm proud of you. Thank you for the lives that you are currently saving. Thank you for the lives that you are going to save. And thank you for showing me to continually stay out of self and keep my own head out of my own arse, and to use my gifts and talents, not just purely for myself, but for others. You're a walking, talking embodiment, man. And I'm proud to have you as a new friend, man.
Yeah, likewise. I really appreciate it. Anytime you want me on the show, I'm more than happy to come back. And it's been a pleasure. And for anybody out there, everybody has their own talents and unique gifts to offer this world, that if you start using those outside of self, you'll be surprised at the miracles that come back, and the gifts of life that you can receive. And for anybody who's out there listening, I believe in you, and you're definitely worth it. So if anybody needs to get a hold of me too, I mean, I can leave my information, and
Happily.
I'm
Come.
here to help, right? Okay, so Instagram is at coastal_recovery community. My website is www.coastalrecoverycommunity.com. And my email is coastalrecoverycommunity@gmail.com. Anybody who wants to get a hold of me can support me through any of those. And also, I have therapythreads.ca is a website for a sober clothing line that 100% of the proceeds go back into the treatment center. And, hopefully anybody who's out there empowered to recover, we can see you on November 19th. And like I said, Chris, man, it's been a pleasure, and anytime I'm happy to come back and do the show.
Look forward to seeing you. Thanks so much, bro.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
So it is here where we have to make a pit stop, but don't fret, we'll be back soon. In the meantime, tell your friends, join us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and Podcast One. Until we see you again, this was Having a Cuppa for the week. See you soon.